Hello, everyone, and welcome to another talk here. So, we're going to work with a tune called Everything Happens to Me. We're going to do a bit of analysis and share with you to just some maybe overall things to work at and or at least things that I might try to put some attention on as I go through something. So I have a little bit of a lead sheet here going from the new Reel 1, I believe. So I'll go over some chord voicings and things, and I'll kind of go through it. So hopefully get some tone going here. All right, so let's take a look at it and discuss some things. All right, so when reading a lead sheet, we want to take a look at the key signature, let's say, to start us out with. Okay. Okay, so what we have is B flat major. Okay. Key of B flat, a key of two flats. So when you see key of two flats, want to think either the relative major or relative minor. So B flat major versus G minor. All right. So and then we can get an idea of where things are moving from there. All right. So you can see we end on B flat. Okay, so that's a important factor. Okay, we start on C minor, so that's probably the 2 chord. And then you'll see certain progressions like circle of fifths and things moving around. So you start to get more and more of an idea, okay, of what it might be here, right? So we have a 2 chord. So one of the things that I might, take a look at is, how does the melody relate? Okay, how does the chord maybe relate to the key center? How does the melody relate to both the key and the particular chord? Think of about different and that's a good way to kind of go through and see what does the melody do and what does it suggest for what the chords themselves are. Right? And just think about some of those relationships. So let's see, we'll go over a few measures here. Gotta write some things out. All right, so we have the 2 chord, key B flat, the 2 chord, and then a 5. Okay, so you might think, okay, well, we have a 2, 5, and I'd often expect a 1 chord, right? So okay, but we get a 3. Now there's a relatedness between the 3 and the 1. Okay, so let's say we have D minor, 3 chord. And what if we play B flat major 7 chord here, going over the 3rd. So we're in first inversion, right? So that's a very similar sound. Okay, and then we're kind of heading down. The diminished chord is a good transition chord between 2 chords that are a whole step away. So you can see that here we have a D. Later on, we're going to have the C again, and that's a whole step. So this is filling in between those 2. So you get a half step there. All right, so we get C minor, F7, D minor, C sharp diminished, C minor, F7. Okay, now they kind of give us an optional transitional chord there. Okay, now this changes the mood of the D minor, right? Because we have a 3 chord. This time is minor 7 flat 5. Right, so we have this in our melody notes. Okay, are kind of dictating that flat 5 there. All right, so I might say, okay, this is kind of 2/5 kind of movement here. In the C minor, or in B flat major, 3, 6, 6 being major. All right, we have a couple of options written into this lead sheet. So as that chord suggested there, we could end up on C minor and then the A flat. Okay, now they also mention G7 going to B flat diminished. Now, or B diminished, excuse me. So that's kind of interesting because this is kind of a related chord to G7. So let's explore that a little bit here as we think about this. All right, so let's think about the notes in a G7 chord. So we have a G, B, D, and F. Now the B diminished 7 is B, D, F, and A flat. So that's already has a lot of, let's say, commonality there. Now, how about thinking about G7 flat 9s? Let's think about that for a minute. And at G chord, that's let's say preceded by the D minor 7 flat 5. You know, I'd often think of having a flat 9 on that anyway. So it's a very similar kind of chord. So let's check into that a little bit. So if we have, let's say, B diminished 7. Okay, now let's look at, let's try to stay kind of on the same strings here. And think about G, first inversion, drop 3 here. See, all the notes are the same except for that one note on the 4th string. Okay. So that's significant there, right? Because actually the B flat, or the B diminished, excuse me, is, if we put that over, put a G over that, that would be G7 flat 9. So that's just a little bit of what you might call plurality between those chords. Okay, now, so we have C, let's say C minor, 2 chord, A flat, and we have flat 7. Let's go and kind of look directly below, same measure here, but we have the B diminished, so flat 2. Okay, so it's really kind of still relating to that that G7 and that G7 flat 9, so kind of G7 flat 9 over B, you might say. And then we have the C minor 7 flat 5 here. Okay, so that would be the 2. In this case, it's half diminished. Now let's relate the A flat to the C minor 7 flat 5. This is a good process to compare things. Okay, so A flat, if we just kind of survey those notes. Let's say we play that. Let's say we play all the way up through here. Okay. So I'm in 10th position here. Okay. So A flat 9, right? Now what if I take away this A flat? What am I left with? C minor 7 flat 5. So the 2 are very closely related, and a lot of the naming of the chord is determined by where you're putting the root note, and so sometimes it's helpful to think in terms of slash chords. All right, so notice up to this point, I don't think we've had B flat yet. So we have a 3, 6. That's kind of functioning as a 2, 5, right? 5 of the 2. And then we have a 2, 5. All right, now let's look at that a little bit. So we have D minor. Okay, to G9, to C minor, and to F7. So 3, 6, 2, 5, and then 1 B flat major. Now, let's talk about that F7 and that B7 for a minute. So the B7. Well, let's go with the F7. Why don't we play an F7? Just got a real basic F7 here. Okay. So I'm in 6th position. It's kind of like the C7 form, like the open C7. Okay. Now we have a voice that's kind of doubled up here. Now we have these two notes. These are help identify the chord, the quality, right? So this is the third and the flat seven. Well, notice those are tritone apart from one another. So if we take a root note that's a tritone down, keep these upper tones, we have a tritone substitution, right? So we get a B7 sharp 11 if we just kind of keep everything as it is, except for that root note. But that gets into the idea that, okay, we have these two tones, 3 flat 7, as it relates to F, and then the flat 7 and 3 of the B. So since it's symmetrical in that interval of tritone, when you take the root and you move it to tritone, they just kind of swap their note names for theory purposes. For flat 7 becomes the 3 becomes flat 7 relative to the other root note. All right. Okay, so it kind of meanders around and never gets, or it does get to where it's gonna want to land, but it takes a while, right? So who knows? That may be a harmonic way of sort of painting a picture of what the lyrics are trying to convey there. Right? It's kind of like maybe trying to do something and not able to do it, or trying to get to the tonic and not able to get to the tonic, or getting close to the tonic and then moving away from the tonic, or getting to something close to the tonic, like that 3 chord, but then it finally lands on that B flat. Okay. All right, so then we basically kind of repeat that whole section there. Okay, so we get all that, and then so that repeats, and then we get to this bridge. The bridge will also often go to a 4 chord, and this is what we have here. Now, at first glance, it looks like we go to 5 minor, but that's a 5 or 2 5 to the 4 chord, so secondary dominant on that B flat. So let me show you that with this page here. And just to mention here for a moment, the podcast here is it's available, and then the video is also available for members of the YouTube member area. Be sure to check that out, youtube.com/footprints. Okay, so let's look at this. So we have the F minor at 11. Okay, and then we get this chord, B flat 7, sharp 5, sharp 9. So it's gonna be a real nice kind of movement to play around with. Do something like that over the B, and then this kind of chord over the E flat. Okay, now it's going through a pretty common cycle, pretty common progression. We have the 2 5 1 6 2 5 1. Now here's another very common thing. Well, actually, it's going in different directions, so never mind about that. But It's very common for it to go to the 4 minor, but it doesn't do that. It goes to a so immediate, but it's major. So we go to E flat minor, get a 2, 5. It's kind of the same sort of progression, really. 2, and then a 5, going to D major. So that's a significant chord to land on. Like we said earlier, we have the 3 chord minor. That's a third above the tonic, right? And all those notes are spelled out within the key. Now this is starting from the same root note, but it's not strictly in the key of B flat, right? Because we have these other tones. Okay, it goes through that same progression as it does, just half step down from the 4 chord. So let's back up here a little bit and write some of the analysis in here. All right, so picking it up back up at the bridge here, we have a 2, 5 progression. This is the 5 of the 4 chord. So we end up on the key of the 4. Okay. All right, and then the 6. Right, so we got 2, 5, 1, 6. 2, 5, 1. All right, then we go from the key of 3 flats to the key of 2 sharps. We have a 2, 5, 1. Okay, which is really 5 of 3, I guess, but we'll call it 1, 6. So kind of same progression. Okay, and then we start to move back. Right, so we get a 2, 5 in the key of F. C7 will be a 5 of the 5, and then we get the 5. Right, so we get like we had before, all the same movement. Okay, and then going to G minor to C7. Now the F sus chord, it's kind of like taking a C minor, like the 2 chord, and putting it over the F, sort of like a halfway point. And then we get the F7. Okay, and then we get the A part of our form again for that. Okay, so it can be really helpful to just kind of break it down and think about how the chord progression kind of works. So we have B flat tonal center, right? And then we have some other spots where we end up. So especially on the bridge, the 4 chord and the 3 chord. Right. So it's tending to mainly visit those 3 areas there. All right, so let's do check on our checking our volume here. So tore down the studio a little bit today. I put on a recital this week and tore down the studio, and so now got some things that are not doing what I would expect them to do. All right, well, sorry about that. Let's see. Okay, everybody. So, all the things you are there. We talked a little bit about that one last week, and so that's going to be one of our featured tunes here. Maybe do a little more playing of some of the other tunes. All right, how about we do a little playing on Lady Bird? So I'm thinking I'll keep kind of a short form tune that has maybe not an entire 32 measures, or something that's more like 16 or 12, and focus a little bit on some of those. Sometimes, at least maybe one of those per month as things develop here. All right, so let's see how this sets in here, hopefully. All right, so I'd play a little bit on Ladybird, and I'll change my screen for us here. Doing a couple things to try to work at doing these shorts here eventually, or more regularly, so get a little bit of a system down. I've been using some of the videos that I have released otherwise to do that with, but I think I'm gonna work at creating sort of dedicated short videos, which I'm thinking just kind of improvising and playing, basically. Alrighty, everybody. So should be getting kind of right back in the swing of things here, with some more videos this week. So I had a little bit of a busy weekend. So through a recital for my in-person studio. Ended up being like a 2-hour event, and went, I think, pretty well. So definitely have some things to think about for my next one, but it'd be interesting to do something online as a recital. I mean, could do Zoom recitals and things. So I've worked for some other studios and done recitals, but this is kind of my first one as um, my own location studio. So I rented out a room and set up all the equipment and stuff like that, and so went pretty well. But I think some things to work on as far as doing sound. I think I need to have a friend or somebody do sound for me. But yeah, it was good. And but I really tore up my studio, and so I spent most of the morning in the afternoon really putting that all back together. So I think it's kind of in order now. I actually switched out one of my cameras too from upstairs, which is part of the whole, which is kind of a part of that whole idea of doing these shorts, because this is the only camera that I have that's capable of doing 4K at 60 frames per second without cropping, or anyways, kind of full featured 4K. So what's significant about that, and I'll probably talk about this in the exclusive updates, is that when it's 4K, then I can kind of stretch out the screen a little bit without losing detail. So when I was testing the vertical screen, it's sort of like, well, it seems like I've got to really stretch out the screen or the picture that comes up. So anyway, if it's 4K, then and I'm recording or streaming at 1080p, then I can stretch it out, and it's just kind of no problem. All right, well, maybe I'll play one more tune here. I didn't get much of a chance to play it all today, so this looks like the time to do it. All right, so I'll play a little bit on Blue Bossy here, which is another tune I thought we'd do possibly. So all right, so here we go. We'll try this out. And let's find a different, just kind of variety of tempos here. It's kind of nice to do this one a little quick, but I think I'm going to take it a little slower. right, everybody. Well, thanks so much for listening and checking this video out and this podcast. I will see you all in the next one. Have a great practice session.